Thank you. Thank you very much. So I don't know, should I give it a moment or two for people to settle themselves down? Well, perhaps I'll just say a little bit about my background. I've been in the computer industry for over 40 years now. And so when I joined the computer industry in the first place, my wife used to complain that when she told her friends that I worked in software, they thought I made teddy bears. Anyway, what is it that gives me the right to speak to you about this is probably that I've been in it so long I've either made the mistakes myself or at least I've seen someone else make them. So that's really why I feel that I can speak about things. Right, there we are. I hope that's... just got to figure out which thing to press. Is it the other one? It's number 2, is it? Number 2. Oh dear. That one?
This one.
Oh right. Very good. There we are. So there's another mistake that I've made. Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about privacy. Privacy is related to trust. Security is what the techniques we use to ensure those things. And then I'll finish off by talking about some real case studies. It's interesting to think about privacy because when I started off, we used to call it secrecy. And I actually signed the UK Official Secrets Act. So how is secrecy different to privacy? Well, when I signed the Official Secrets Act, if I leaked a government secret, and if the government could prove that I had done it, then they could take me away and they could hang me by the neck until I was dead. But if the government loses my personal information, well, all I can do is get a kind of a semi-apology from a Prime Minister on the television. And that's the difference between secrecy and privacy, that it's whether or not there is some kind of clear definition of what will happen to you if in fact this secret is leaked. But the basic thing is the same. Now, I think Scott McNeely perhaps would regret of saying this, but apparently he got it pretty much right, because it seems that personal information leaks so frequently that it does seem that there may well be no privacy. So why does it really matter? Now, I don't know if any of you know Jeremy Clarkson. Jeremy Clarkson is a pretty famous TV presenter who talks a great deal about cars. And when the famous case of the UK government losing the records of 25 million citizens, including their names, their addresses, their dates of birth and their bank account details, he sort of said, why is everybody complaining about this? It doesn't really matter, does it? And he published his information in one of the popular newspapers. And when he got his bank statement at the end of the month, guess what? Somebody had taken £500 from his bank account and given it to a charity, which kind of proved somewhat that actually privacy of your information does really matter to you. So, you know, what does privacy mean and how is it different? Well, privacy obviously is important because privacy was sort of mentioned in the European Convention on Human Rights, which was something that goes back to the late 1940s, where, you know, one of the human rights is that you are entitled to confidentiality, to privacy of your personal life and of your email, of your post and your mail services. And that was then formulated by the OECD into a set of principles which were intended to help to guide organizations to understand whether or not they could interchange information outside of the organization and what the rules that they should put forward. And those are set out there. I don't think it's appropriate to go through them all, but basically they are saying that you should only collect the information that is necessary to do the job, that people's information that they give should be given with consent, and that's a very interesting thing, because I don't know how many people really understand what they are consenting to when they tick the box in the application for various pieces of consumer things like fidelity cards, if you will, for buying from the supermarket, frequent flyer cards, and this kind of thing. Because that you are basically giving the right, when you tick that box, to say, I consent to this information that I've given about me being used in a certain way. That the information ought to be accurate. And one of my biggest worries personally when I see things to do with privacy is that they'll get it all wrong. Because, you know, if anybody who's ever worked with databases and looked at the quality of data that you find in databases is absolutely staggered. To give you an example, one of my friends was involved in the computerization of patient records in a large hospital in the UK. And when he'd done this, he actually did a very simple thing. He did a scan across the data to find any patient whose name only occurred once. And in doing this, he found that there was a Polish lady who had 10 medical records, because nobody could spell her name, and every time she turned up at the hospital, they couldn't find her record, and they created a new one. So those are the kinds of things that we expect. And what we want to do is to use the technology and to use our best practices to achieve that. Now, so at the bottom of this is trust. And trust is rather like this, that when I give information to a bank, when I give information to a credit card supplier, when you give your organization's information to one of their your employees, there is an element of trust. There is a trust that that information will be used for the purposes for which it was intended. Now, trust is an interesting thing, and trust goes back a long time. Anyone who has been to the British Museum cannot fail to be impressed by the fact that they have 130,000 tablets. These are Assyrian tablets from where is now basically Persia, or is now Iran. And these are tablets onto which has been written in cuneiform writing something which has been preserved for all of this time. And when I saw this particular article in the Daily Telegraph, I was really intrigued. And I must be very sad, because the actual story behind this tablet is that the writing on that tablet, when it was decoded, when it was translated, proved that a certain person who is mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible was in fact really there, because he is mentioned on this tablet. And so it gives some credibility, if you will, some proof of the existence of this person that was mentioned in the Bible. But actually, what that stone is it is a receipt. It is a proof that this chap who was given a certain amount of gold to take to the temple and give to the temple on behalf of the king had in fact done it. And it's really no different to the fact that when I get back from my trip here to Munich, that I will have to present some receipts to my employer to prove to them that I've actually spent the money, and that they can trust me enough to pay me that money back. So trust is not a new thing. If we go forward to today, this is rather an interesting picture, because this particular graph comes from a study that we commissioned in the UK by an independent pollster called YouGov, and they polled 2,500 people to ask them about trust and using the internet. And one of the things you can see from